We are counting down 5 bourbons you should avoid and revealing 3 hidden gems worth every penny. From overpriced bottles hiding behind flashy labels to mass-marketed premium picks that taste like watered-down disappointment, this list exposes what is all hype and what is all flavor. Whether you are a new collector or a seasoned sipper, these are not just opinions. They are hard truths backed by real whiskey science and value. Let us jump into number 8, where small barrels deliver big headaches. Hudson whiskey. New York built its reputation on a shortcut: tiny 3-gallon barrels aged just a few months, with the promise that more wood contact would make up for lost time. But whiskey is not fooled by math. When you shrink the barrel, you do not get mature bourbon faster. You just get more raw wood, more tannin, and a blast of green, unfinished flavors. Reviewers call it tasting like wet cardboard, raw corn, and fresh-cut lumber, classic signs of rushed aging. The distillery even tried sonic maturation, blasting music to shake the barrels, but there is no evidence it fixes the problem. At $40 to $50 a bottle, you are paying mid-shelf money for a science experiment that drinks like young moonshine. This is how you end up with a shelf turd. The label says craft, but the glass says not ready. Willett pot. Still Reserve is the textbook case of buying the glass, not the bourbon. That decanter is legendary, shaped like a copper pot still, heavy in the hand, and guaranteed to impress on a bar cart or an Instagram feed. But the liquid inside tells a different story. At 94 proof, with no age statement and a street price of about $55, you are getting a young, light-bodied bourbon that most reviewers call thin and forgettable. The flavor leans sweet corn, faint citrus, and sometimes a weird woody note, but it never delivers the richness or depth you would expect for the price. Multiple critics say they would rather spend the money on less flashy bottles that actually taste like something. Bottom line, you are paying a premium for the decanter, not the whiskey. If you want a centerpiece, buy the bottle. Just do not expect to finish it. Basil Hayden's is the masterclass in paying more to get less. It sits on shelves with a crisp label, priced like a premium pour, but the secret is in the proof. It is 80 proof. That is the absolute legal minimum for bourbon, and that is no accident. The company takes the same high rye recipe as Old Granddad, but waters it down until the flavor is barely hanging on. When whiskey drops to 40% alcohol by volume, the concentration of flavor compounds, the esters, oils, and spicy rye notes, plummets. What is left is a thin, almost weightless sip with a finish that disappears before you can even think about it. The marketing calls it approachable, but what you are really buying is bourbon-flavored water at a markup. For the same money, you could grab Old Granddad 114 and actually taste something. Basil Hayden's earns its spot on this list for charging a premium to deliver the least flavor possible. Town Branch Bourbon comes from a distillery that wears 2 hats, brewery and whiskey maker, both under one Lexington roof. That beer heritage is not just a footnote. It shapes the bourbon in the glass. The mash bill leans heavy on corn, but with a notable 15% malted barley, much higher than most Kentucky bourbons. That extra malt can push the flavor towards cereal grain, and depending on the batch, a faintly sweet, almost biscuity note. Some bottles offer classic caramel and vanilla, but the body stays light and the finish short. The most common critique is not outright flaws, but a sense that something is missing: depth, complexity, or just that extra punch you hope for at $35 a bottle. Enthusiast reviews rarely call it bad, but few call it memorable. For the price, bigger brands deliver more flavor and consistency. Town Branch is not broken, but it is hard to recommend when so many better bottles crowd the same shelf. Kentucky Owl Confiscated is the bourbon world's masterclass in smoke and mirrors. The label leans hard on prohibition drama, barrels seized by the feds, family recipes lost to time, but the facts on the bottle are all question marks. There is no age statement, no distillery is named, no mash bill, no proof of pedigree. What you get is a $125 price tag and a lot of vague storytelling, all wrapped up in luxury packaging. It is a sourced whiskey, and the contracts behind it are locked down with non-disclosure agreements so tight, even seasoned reviewers cannot say where the liquid comes from. US law lets brands skip the age statement if the whiskey is at least 4 years old, but that is the bare minimum, not a badge of honor. After Stoli took over the brand, Confiscated became the flagship for a new kind of bourbon, all about the legend and none of the transparency. For the same money, you could walk out with 2 bottles of Wild Turkey Rare Breed, higher proof, full specs, and zero mystery. Confiscated is the definition of paying for the story, not the whiskey. If you want to taste history, look elsewhere. This is a luxury cash grab, plain and simple. Old Grandad 114 is the bourbon world's equivalent of a sleeper hit, overlooked by newcomers but a go-to for insiders who want maximum punch for minimum money. The label looks like it has been trapped in a time warp since the Reagan era. Flat orange, blocky type, no frills, no fake history. But inside that bottle, you get a 114 proof, high rye bourbon that delivers a wallop of flavor. The mash bill leans heavy on rye, giving it a spicy backbone layered with the classic beam peanut note, a signature that shows up in every pour. At 57% alcohol by volume, nothing is watered down. All the caramel, peanut shell, baking spice, and heat land with real intensity. Bartenders love it because it stands up in any cocktail, Manhattan or old-fashioned, without getting lost. And for around $30, it is less than half the price of some so-called premium bottles that cannot match its firepower. It is not the prettiest bottle on the shelf, but if you care about flavor per dollar, Old Grandad 114 is the workhorse you want in your lineup. There are 2 even bigger bargains coming up, but this one earns its spot as the first hidden gem. Evan Williams Bottled in Bond wears a plain white label, but behind that supermarket look sits one of the best values in American whiskey. The Bottled in Bond Act of 1897 was not just a marketing move, it is federal law. That label guarantees every drop inside was distilled in one season, by one distiller, at one distillery, aged at least 4 years in a government-bonded warehouse, and bottled at exactly 100 proof. No shortcuts, no mystery blends, no watered-down finishes. Heaven Hill makes this one, and the flavor is pure classic bourbon, caramel corn, vanilla, a little oak, and a finish that lingers longer than most bottles twice the price. In blind tastings, Evan Williams Bottled in Bond routinely beats big names like Jack Daniel's and even some premium-priced craft bourbons. The real kicker, you are looking at $18 to $20 for a 750 milliliter bottle. That is half the price of the big brands, with more proof and more flavor. It is the kind of bottle bartenders keep on hand for their own pours, not just for mixing. If you want a cheat code for quality bourbon, start by looking for that Bottled in Bond label. Early times. Bottled in Bond is the kind of bourbon that insiders whisper about when the cameras are off. Forget fancy glass or celebrity hype. This is a 1-liter blue-capped jug that still looks like it belongs behind a dive bar cash register. But here is the math that breaks the game. For about $25 to $30, you get a full liter of 100 proof, 4-year-old government-certified bourbon. That is 33% more whiskey than a standard 750 milliliter bottle, for the price of most mid-shelf brands. The Bottled in Bond label is not just nostalgia, it is a legal guarantee. One distiller, one season, at least 4 years in a federally supervised warehouse, bottled at exactly 100 proof. No shortcuts, no mystery blends. When Brown-Forman sold the brand to Sazerac in 2020, panic buying swept through bourbon forums. People hoarded cases, afraid the blue cap magic would vanish. The truth is, the new Sazerac version is a little brighter, maybe not quite as rich as the old Brown-Forman pour, but it still delivers real flavor: rich caramel, dark fruit, baking spice, and an oily texture you will never get from a bottle half the price. Most folks walk right past early times bottled in bond because it looks cheap. But that is the point. This is the ultimate ugly duckling cheat code. A liter of bonded bourbon, proof to punch above its price, and still under $30 if you know where to look. If you care about flavor per dollar, this is the best value in American whiskey, period. Across all 8 bourbons, one truth emerges. In today's whiskey world, marketing flash often outweighs what is in the bottle. Real value hides behind plain packaging and government-regulated specs, not hype. In bourbon, taste and transparency win every time. Which bottle shocked you most? Drop your thoughts below.